So every few years or so, a new tool or technology arises that gets all the artists out there quaking in their boots. And recently, some of these AI art programs have been surfacing up in a lot of conversational circles, specifically with concept artists, which is the field that I specialize in, concept art for video games. So it's coming up an awful lot. It's coming up a lot in my Discord. It's coming up a lot in my comments, especially after last week I posted a video talking about all of the skills that actually go into doing concept art and things that young aspiring concept artists should practice in order to get a job as a concept artist. And my video must have seemed very frustrating to a lot of artists, aspiring artists who want to be concept artists, but didn't realize how hard that would be. Because there were a lot of comments saying, oh, well, AI is just going to replace concept artists. So I wanted to throw in my 2 cents on this because people keep asking about it. And also, I think that people, unfortunately, they talk themselves out of trying because they just go, oh, well, I can just have an AI do that for me in a couple of years, so I don't need to learn all of these things. Yeah. Concept art is just about coming up with pretty pictures anyway, right? So why would I need to learn to paint if this computer can just generate images based on what I tell it to generate, and it makes it look beautiful? I don't need to learn to actually paint, right? I mean, this stuff is hard anyway, and there's no joy in the actual process of painting anyway, right? How could anybody enjoy this stuff? You know, learning lighting and learning material rendering and color theory and composition and perspective and oh my God, oh no. Don't get too excited. Don't get too excited. It's stupid. It's just such a waste of time to learn this when a computer can do it. I have to wonder if social media has just made us hate making art but love the glory. Like, I like making the art. The glory is nice, but I like making the art. It's freaking fun, dude. And learning a new skill and seeing that I can do something that I couldn't do before is a blast. I love that. But no. There are a lot of people out there who say, I don't enjoy actually drawing, I just want the likes. I don't like the art, I just want the big money and the admiration of a bunch of other people that I don't know. In short, all of these new AI art tools are only going to speed up the process and the expectations of concept artists to do what we actually do, not what the internet tells you that we do. But AI won't replace concept art any more than the synthesizer replaced musicians. And people who think that it will don't have a full understanding of what a concept artist and world builder actually does. And I'm not throwing jabs here, man. I'm not trying to come at you. I'm just saying that there's value in this. There's value in the human involvement in the creative process. I never thought that would come into question. What, you think what I do is easy? You think a computer could just do what I do? And not to mention that a lot of times these comments just come off as like fatalistic. Like, man, why bother? There's no fun in doing it anyway. And I'm like, I don't get you, man. Like, it's fun to do stuff like this. It's fun to learn to improve. It's fun to master something. Like, there's a computer that can play guitar. It sounds like a guitar, but I will bet my life on the fact that till the end of mankind's existence, watching somebody go on stage and just rip out a freaking amazing guitar solo, that will always be freaking awesome because humans love to watch other humans master a skill. And that human gets a kick out of doing it and impressing people. Parents all over the world will still put their kids' doodles on the refrigerator, even though an AI could have generated those doodles. Let's not undervalue that. Now, I've been doing concept art for 20 years, and I have a pretty clear view of where things are going. And yes, AI will play a part in the concept art process. I can guarantee that. Of course it will. In the same way that synthesizers can make, and digital programming, audio program tools can make a person who cannot play piano sound like a professional piano player. The role of a concept artist may change or shift in a sense, where what we'll probably see with video games is something similar to what happened with the DJ. For example, we might see a future whereby one person generates entire worlds using these tools. And what's more likely is that we'll see AI tools that render or texture from a sketch or create 3D models from 2D concept art, but not necessarily a AI that completely creates a cohesive, fully functional world. You guys remember No Man's Sky at launch? Procedural, generic. I would venture to say that randomly generated or AI created art isn't going to connect with human beings the same way that a person who even modified or made selections or interfaced with that AI could build a brand, for instance, that would appeal to people who have an interest in their style of art.
So I see it as a way for one person to generate more content in greater detail and more of a symbiotic relationship. In the PlayStation 1 era, you would need a team of about 20 people to make a game like Metal Gear Solid. Now, one person could do that in probably a matter of a couple of years. I mean, minus all the voice acting, but even that is becoming AI-driven, AI voice acting. So this has been going on for a long time. The individual pieces become a little bit less valuable, and context and overarching complexity become more valuable. But production art for video games is more than just one image. The AI might get things started, but it can't do all the nuance, all the subtleties, all the in-between stuff that make a story human. Also, if you're an illustrator, imagine that your client says, hey, draw our character in this particular pose, performing this action. An AI can't do that. You're not going to have an AI that paints a perfect Illidan that, is in an interesting pose. It won't work that way. It can do an awful lot, and I am very impressed with how much AI can do. But in every case of every image I've seen generated by AI, I just want to curate it. I want to modify it. I want to adjust it to fit into the world that I'm creating. It never feels complete or consistent with the rest of the world that I'm developing. So it then becomes more important as a creative to think beyond the realm of just being a painter, for example, and think more in terms of building a brand. Just because the synthesizer came out, just because the music player and DJs came out, doesn't mean that people who play guitar are no longer needed. It doesn't mean that people who play violin are no longer appreciated or needed. There is a way to build a brand around traditional mediums still, even though digital art exists, there are still people who make a living doing traditional oil paintings because they've accelerated their skill level to such a degree that they've also built a strong demand and a strong brand for their artwork because they are kind of traditional and it requires incredible skill. So what I see is a future whereby maybe photorealistic artwork that's generated by AI might be less appreciated because it's a flooded market, but more stylized and unique flavors, more stylized and unique experiences and context will become more appreciated. And I also think that concept artists are going to be expected to work 10 times faster, generating 10 images a day. But that won't be a big thing because that artist is really just using AI to double or triple their speed of productivity. Now, what I would be more impressed with and what I would be more interested in is something that renders for me. So I could start a piece, and maybe what we'll end up with is something where every artist just has an AI companion that's learning from them. They're learning their traits, their patterns, their formulas, and that artist works in symbiosis with their AI art companion, which then fills in the gaps, textures, or converts your sketches into a more finalized kind of a rotatable 3D object. Now that, I see that as very likely, but that also just means there's more industry, more games are going to be made, more high-level detailed games are going to be made in less time. And then consumers demand more personal touch. And if you are nervous about AI, get used to this feeling because you're always getting older. The tools are always expanding and evolving. And there are those who get excited about those new technologies. And there are those who say, no way, I'm hanging back. I'm not too thrilled to get a cyborg chip put in my head, but there may come a time in my lifetime when that's just normal. And if I don't do it, I'll be left behind. But I'm not really too eager to go that route. I am more of a traditionalist. I am more of the kind of guy who would like to live in the countryside, away from a lot of the hustle and bustle. These are things that I no longer have much of a need for. But if you're highly competitive and you do want to compete in this arena, it's going to give you a lot of these stresses. And that's part of what just comes with it. It just comes with it. It always has and it always will.
So if you're still young and you're just out of school or you're in school still, maybe these are tools that you should look at how you can utilize on top of developing your skills.
Use the tools that are available to you, man.
I've been kicking around in the art field for a long, long time, dudes. And I've seen it all, man. I've seen it all. No, that's not true. But I've seen an awful lot. And I've seen this same pattern emerge many times over. And we've seen where technology scares the bejesus out of the traditional artist or puppeteer or animator, and they reject it. Sometimes they push it back and say, no, there's no way. I'm going to stick with my traditional ways because that's what my brand is, and that's where I've treasured and where I've put my interest.
And I get you too, man.
I like line art. I like designing by hand. I have a lot of, if you watch my videos and you know how I design, you know that there's story in every piece that I put onto every pixel, I guess you'd say. Every position of every placement of every object in any game I've worked on that I had the choice in controlling was intentional. And that's not something that I could assume an AI could do. However, if there is a tool that allows me to program with a little less stress and maybe generate more content more rapidly, as long as it still feels like it has my handcrafted touch, then yeah, we're gold. I will use it. Absolutely, I will use it. And I'm constantly on the search for tools that will allow me to execute my vision more effectively and do things more quickly. So AI is not out of the realm of something that I might use in the future. However, it cannot replace what I do.
And if I'm wrong, well, it's still a gamble I have to take, because what are my other choices? Go and work in a factory? Like, robots are going to replace that job too. I'll always bet on the human spirit, man. And maybe you should too. Put a little bit more value in what makes you unique, what makes you uniquely you. And a lot of you who are subscribers already know that that's how I feel about this. And maybe I'm just speaking to those people who feel like they could be replaced so easily.
But the advice that I would give to an artist, if they were under my tutelage, for example, which is kind of what this channel is just sharing my viewpoints on these things, is that I would suggest becoming more than just an artist. I would suggest trying to imagine yourself more as a game director or as a person who sculpts an experience.
If you think in terms of making art that serves people more than just making art that serves yourself, well, then these tools just seem exciting to you, because it just means that you get to serve your audience more effectively.
And most importantly than all of this, the notion that AI could replace art, so why bother, is sort of like saying, why bother playing basketball? Robots are going to play all the basketball in the future. Why bother, learning a musical instrument? Why bother learning in school when I have a calculator or I have a computer that I can just ask a question to? Why bother learning any of this stuff?
It all just seems so fatalistic, and it's almost as if people are just trying to talk themselves out of personal excellence or personal mastery, which to me is like talking yourself out of the whole purpose of life. It's just so fatalistic and unproductive, and it doesn't really serve you to think that way. But you know what, dudes? If you really want to talk yourself out of drawing, or if you want to talk yourself out of facing challenges, you're totally free to do that. This is just my perspective and my viewpoint, and why I'll never adopt that kind of mentality. And I've had several thousand people in my lifetime tell me that they gave up on art. They talked themselves out of it at a young age, and then 20 years later, they're trying to get back into it again.
My point is many of your other options you might be dealing with the same fears. And if the future is what Elon Musk suggested, whereby humans just don't need to work and we're free to just fulfill our spiritual desires, our goals, then art is a worthwhile pursuit. It won't matter if you make money at it or not, because all manufacturing, everything is manufactured and made by robots anyway. So you might as well just pursue great storytelling or pursue interpersonal relationships, find ways to connect with humans on another level. And that may be a greater ambition than just getting likes or getting a large paycheck for doing your art. You may find other reasons for doing great art other than just the sort of, I guess you'd say, archaic goal of just having wealth or fame for your art. It may just be a way that you can find spiritual fulfillment or human connectivity. I would say that still pursuing art, still pursuing a creative endeavor is probably the greatest purpose that you could have on this world. But I say that because I am an artist, I am a creative, and I am a person who lives for expression. That is who I am, my core identity. It's the purpose of why I put on this earth. Don't lose that purpose, and don't sacrifice it out of fear, and don't sacrifice it because you think that, oh, well, it'll just get harder. No, dude, rise to the challenge. You can do that.
And it's fun. Even if there was a single button I could press that would do the final rendering on my character design, I would still want to sit down and render on it.
Just because they can manufacture almost anything in a factory doesn't mean that we don't still need people to handcraft things. In fact, they become more valuable when they're handcrafted. And it's a hell of a lot of fun. Don't lose sight of the fun of learning, and don't lose sight of the fun of being able to overcome things that you couldn't do before. It's a beautiful thing to grow. So obviously I'm very passionate about this because the notion that AI could replace what I do is of course offensive. it's not offensive, but it's like, wow, you really don't know, do you? You can't appreciate this? It's just pretty pictures to you. Is it hard? Yeah, it's freaking hard. And is it rewarding? Yeah, it's really rewarding. Now, I've said it before, but every experience you have, good or bad, your struggles, these are part of your story. These are what's going to make you more valuable. Put that into what you're doing. If you're feeling like it's just some formula, a computation that could be emulated, then you're not putting enough of your soul into your work. Then maybe you're not putting enough of you into your work. Your personal experiences, your frustrations, your struggles. Work that into your stories. Work that into your artwork. And I'll tell you what, you'll find that other people share similar experiences. And that's a wonderful thing to connect with people over. You'll never have that if you stop art. But these days, who knows? There's a lot of bots on Twitter and Instagram, so maybe they're going to like all the other robot AI posts. I don't know. Anyway, this topic could go on for hours. It's a very philosophical question. I think you really have to dig deep into what it means to be creative, what it means to express yourself in your work, and whether or not that's even important to you in your journey. The last thing I just want to say is don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on it just because it seems like it's going to be a hard road. Like, embrace that. Embrace the challenge.
I mean, what the hell else are you going to do with your life?
Anyways, that's it for me this week. I want to thank you so much for stopping by. Dudes, I don't know about where you're at, but it's hot out there. It's summer, and so I'm trying to cool things off with my cool summer sale over on my Gumroad channel. So if you are looking to enjoy the process of learning new skills, enjoy the process of learning to paint better, and get yourself some opportunities as a concept artist working in games, I have some workshops for beginners and pros over there on my Gumroad channel. I'm running that cool summer sale, so check it out for a sweet 25% off.
The artwork you've been watching in this video is from the Twilight Monk Metroidvania that I've been working on. You can head on over to Steam and wishlist that, get early access to the demo when that comes out. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, ciao.